failed and they are extinct. There's no reason why Homo sapiens will not be just a trace memory, some form of plastic left behind in the earth, and that's it. There's nothing guaranteeing our existence on this planet. And we are at the point now where we make revolutionary changes or it's just too late. If we live at all, it'll be in some totally dystopian, nasty, brutish, short, ugly way, like the Mad Max, the first Mad Max movie, you know. It's going to be like that. We tend to be like cockroaches, able to survive in really extreme environments. Maybe we'll survive on the moon, a few unhappy bands, or on Mars, maybe on this planet. But this industrial world order is coming apart right now in front of our eyes.
And I mean, you're doing this for quite a while, and it must be incredibly frustrating at times because you know, all your arguments really make sense, and I think a lot of people that listen to this say absolutely. And we go off air, and they say like, "What was that he said?" You know, I mean, I think a big problem is really, you know, I always say that because I used to work as a social worker for a few years. I think, you know, sort of what has progressively gotten worse is people see things and they do not connect the dots. Just like, you know, when you have people that, you know, when I was younger, we had the Rocky movies, you know, with Sylvester Stallone, they were rated 18. Now you get the same movie for a 12-year-old. So they have experienced more violence in their pop culture than they would have experienced in their lifetime. That must also, this whole mindset must have an impact, and negative impact or a slowing down impact on really bringing about change. I mean, there's a few people that now say, maybe it all comes to an end on the 21st of December. So you have all these people that say, well, you know, look into Mayan prophecy, but it becomes a history program as such. You know, I mean, where do we go from here, really?
Well, sometimes I feel like doomsday sayer, you know, apocalyptic, and you know, one of these old people. The world's coming to an end, but the difference between you know what I might be saying, certainly not just me, world scientific opinion, and the old apocalyptic arguments is that this is based on fact, and the best facts and evidence that we have. That the best scientific consensus is saying the same thing. That James Hansen, who you know is the NASA, the illustrious NASA scientist who's been trying to also warn humanity for some time, is now encouraging people to take direct action in favor of the Earth. And his work was censored by U.S. government. So that this message was not able to get through. There's been enough disinformation on this message so that people are confused about it. But you know, it's there has to be a positive with the negative, right? And the positive is that it's not too late yet, and that the time really is seriously now, and to escalate everything we're doing 100 times over. Now, for the people who find this abstract or something, well, go tell the people. I think it's the Tuvalu Island, which is one of the first places, human habitation now, that is being rendered uninhabitable by climate change, because I think they're being evacuated off that island because of rising seas. Tell it to the polar bears, whose lives certainly have been affected by rising seas and breaking ice floes. If you don't believe in hunger, go down to Johannesburg and some southern townships of there and say, I don't believe in hunger. I don't believe it's a real problem. You know, these things are real. We in the so-called developed Western nations, whether it's Ireland or England or France, Germany, or the U.S., these countries who have contributed the most to the problems of climate change are going to be hit the latest and the least by it. It's the people who contributed the least that are going to be hit the hardest. So it's in the southern hemisphere, the poorest people, that you tell them climate change is speculative, and you tell them it's a hoax, and you're going to get a different response.
you probably get a fist in your face
yeah,
until you
look,
see it.
it's consumer narcissism.
Yeah.
We live relatively privileged lives, and you got to pay attention to what's going on in the world, and don't count on the corporate media to tell you.
I mean, when you were talking there about the polar bears, they have this movie Arctic Tale. It's narrated by Queen Latifah, and it shows two cubs. I think one polar bear cub, and the other one is a seal or something. And it really is well narrated, and it shows the problems that they have with the melting polar caps. But it is done in a way that it actually is now to be found in a children's section. And it has become another sort of movie that is almost in the same vein as Brother Grimm. It is very unreal, or done in a way that, even though it's a good movie, it's done in a way that it ends up on a shelf in a living room, in a children's room. And I think that's part of the problem, that a lot of people just don't want to know about it.
Yeah, and I don't think the vegan community wants to know about it anymore. Vegan community has the same human nature as a lot of us. We don't like depressing news. We don't like to face what real facts are, and we don't like to move out of our comfort zones. We want to make our activism so that we can do it at fancy Whole Food stores, and we want to make it so that we can do it out of our home. So we don't have to do anything uncomfortable or unpleasant, anything that gets in the way of normal things. Well, so you find human nature in the vegan community too, and I want to say that this community also is very much in denial. And if they weren't in denial, they'd be talking about these issues a lot more seriously. They'd be talking about China and India. They'd be talking about climate change a lot more than they are. They'd stop peddling these fantasies that only aid the devastation of this planet. They stop peddling the fantasies that blogging is enough, that education is enough, that pacifism is going to ultimately lead to a revolution. That nonviolence can always stop violence, or that an eye for an eye only makes the world blind. That's all part of the problem, not the solution. So when you see a world where you have passive activists, you know that Orwellian doublespeak has come full circle, and it's just part of the same world where freedom fighters are called terrorists and terrorists are called freedom fighters. There's not much reality left in this world.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to sell cheap fantasies and lies and myths to any kind of people. People would rather join a cult than join a movement. And I'm afraid that's what this vegan community has become. A large part has become a cult of people who have a leader and who think that their leader is always true, always right, that they are never wrong, that everyone else is always wrong. And let me tell you something. I'm not an absolutist. I don't think there's only one way. I think that there are different contexts that require different solutions and different tactics. Anytime anybody starts talking to me about absolutistic terms or in universalistic terms, as if there's just one tactic or one philosophy, then I know that they're wrong, because the world is much too complex for that. And in some cases, a nonviolent tactic will work, and it's probably the best way to go about things. In other cases, to stop poaching in Rwanda or something. By the way, how they're stopping poaching now? They're killing poachers. People say, there might be an armed struggle in the animal liberation movement someday. There's already an armed struggle. It's in Rwanda. That's how they're protecting the elephants. So there's no easy answer to any things, and I don't claim to have it. And I know I can be wrong about certain things, and when I can have a productive debate with somebody, I can learn something. But these false leaders, they're never wrong, and they don't ever acknowledge. They don't acknowledge there might be something problematic what they say. They don't acknowledge there might be something right what other people say. I'm all too happy to do that.
I mean, we know that in some cases, the opposition are lawyers, so they start threatening you rather than say, when you post something, they just threaten you for putting it out there. So. The problem really is that apparently a lot of people sit in their armchairs and just watch television and just like you said, sort of waiting for someone who does it all for them. And if I get you right, I mean, part is really to get up and do it yourself.
Yeah, it's what Guy Debord, the great situationist theorist from the 1960s in France, called the Society of the Spectacle.